Day 791. I wasn't really afraid of ghosts until we spent a night in Alcatraz. Cal finally showed back up late in the evening as we were debating whether to just leave Santa Barbara instead of waiting for him. He didn't stay long, but he said my original world has gotten worse, especially since our little trip to Area 51. The realities merged just long enough for our group to be caught on camera, with Lisa seen pulling the ID badge we used on the elevator from one of the scientist's jackets. Someone in that world has been leaking word of our exploits, along with any video and pictures they can find, to the general public, and now chaos is breaking out as they all think some kind of aliens or interdimensional beings are going around trying to take out humanity. It would be funny if it weren't so serious over there. Society has apparently started to break down, and the beings that watched over this are all getting testy. Cal's been to a few gatherings of the beings, and they are still divided on what to do. Some of them still say they should let it play out, but a growing number are starting to believe that they should intervene. He didn't have much more news for us, though that was a lot to chew on. Before he left, I got the chance to ask him about my old family. He said they'd been worried since I went missing, and my face being on the news had caused mixed emotions, especially for my wife. She seemed to realize how much she loved me when she saw me with another woman in tow, and now she seems to want me back more than anything. My kids apparently think I'm cool now because I was able to sneak into Area 51, and they've been on the news pleading with me to come home. I don't know what to think anymore, as they all seemed so passive with me when I was there. I love this little misfit group I found in this reality, and I don't want to lose them, but what if going back is the right thing to do? I don't know for sure if I'll even have that choice to make, but I honestly don't know what I'll do if it comes to that. I knew sleeping at that point would be impossible, so I spent the night driving up the coast to our next destination, San Francisco. I parked a bit before sunrise the next morning in Half Moon Bay, and actually managed a couple of hours of sleep before Kyle's barking woke me. He wanted to go outside, and as soon as Steven realized we were near the beach, he wanted to go too. It was one of those amazing mornings where the moon is setting over the ocean just as the sun is coming up. The sky was crystal clear and the conditions were just perfect considering it's late October. We spent the better part of the morning hanging out on the beach, and Lisa and I talked about what Cal told me. If you have to make that choice, I just want you to know that this little bit of time with you has been amazing, and I won't fault you for wanting to go back to them, she said as the waves washed over our feet. As early afternoon approached, we made our way back to the RV for lunch, and then drove up to San Francisco. The first stop, per Lisa's request, was a place called Christmas Tree Point. I'd never heard of it, but I'm glad we made the trip because the view of the city from the parking lot up there was amazing. "Charlie, what's that building out there? The one in the middle of the bay?" Steven asked. "I believe that's Alcatraz Island, a famous prison where they used to keep the worst criminals in the country." Steven's eyes got bigger than I think I've ever seen them. "Can we go? Please?" he said, putting his hands together and pretending to beg. "We'll see. It depends on how good you are over the next couple of days." On the one hand, I wanted to be careful while we visited the Golden City, but I also wanted to keep enjoying this experience while I can. Maybe Cal is telling the truth and our actions are rippling across and causing problems. But there's this little voice in the back of my head that keeps insisting there's more to him than he lets on. I haven't told the others yet, and for now I'll just keep my doubts to myself. But I find it really odd that he would decide to interact after watching us for so long, and these all-powerful beings seeming to just want to watch us strikes me as absurd. Why would a group like that want to watch us going through all of this? What is there to gain for them? Setting my doubts about Cal to the side, we spent the evening and night parked on the road looking out over the Pacific Ocean. The sunset was as beautiful as it's been on this trip up the coast, and I told Steven what I knew about Alcatraz Island, trying my best to answer his relentless questions. The next morning, I taught Lisa how to play golf on one of the local courses, with Kyle and Steven acting as our caddies. I didn't really expect her to be quite so good, and she nearly beat me on the back nine. When I commented on her amazing learning curve, she told me she had originally been a mannequin for a country club before it shut down, and she'd heard and seen many golfing tips in that time. So you knew what was going on around you even before I met you? Oh yes, I was aware of my surroundings, I just couldn't do anything about it. I saw some wild things in my day, but nothing compared to now, of course. We spent some time sightseeing that afternoon, checking out some of the museums in the area and just enjoying the day. We rode the famous cable cars for about an hour before getting bored, and finally spent the evening picking out a boat for our trip across the bay the following morning. The day ended with Lisa and I enjoying a dinner by candlelight while Kyle and Steven fell asleep watching a movie. The sun rose to find us moving out into the harbor on what was more or less a multi-million-dollar yacht. I wanted to travel in style this time, and I hoped we would have a better experience than the trip to Liberty Island. It didn't take us long to make it to Alcatraz, and the excitement reached a crescendo as I pulled the boat up to the dock. Steven wanted to roleplay being an inmate and trying to escape, especially as he was the only one who hadn't been locked behind bars so far. We found some outfits in one of the displays that worked perfect for our little game, with a few alterations to the prisoner outfit given how small Steven is, and I locked him in one of the cells. Kyle acted as a guard dog, watching the cell closely for any sign of Steven attempting to break out, and Lisa and I made our way to the warden's office under the guise of taking a donut break. We were only gone for a couple of hours, returning to find Kyle asleep and Steven nowhere to be seen. After waking the world's most inept guard dog, we began our search for Steven. I thought he might have gone back to the boat to try and escape in the most logical way, but that was only because I forgot this is Steven we're dealing with. When he wasn't on the boat, we scoured the island, calling his name in every nook and cranny we could. I was starting to think that he had maybe managed to actually make it back to the mainland when I spotted something odd on one of the rocks near the water. Making my way down, I discovered Steven lying on his back, motionless and surrounded by various pieces of prisoner uniforms. I thought for a second he might be dead, but he popped his head up as I approached. "The water's so cold," he managed to say, a quiver in his voice. After getting him back on the boat and warming him up with some hot cocoa Lisa found in one of the cabinets, he explained he wanted to escape in the same way the prisoners had in the story I had told him a couple of days prior. I could only shake my head as I reiterated to him that those prisoners had likely died in the harbor due to the cold water. Realizing his mistake, he asked if we could try again so he could steal the boat, but I shot the idea down as it was getting dark and I really didn't want to be stranded on the island. As fun as the day was, though, the night was even better. Being as it's close to Halloween, I've been building up ghost stories and getting the others excited about getting spooked. I've been telling them I had a special surprise when we got to San Francisco, and I was finally able to reveal it as we sat docked at Alcatraz Island. "We're going ghost hunting," I said, pulling out the camera and some equipment I've been hiding as we've been traveling. "We can hunt ghosts? How do we take them out?" Steven asked. "We don't take them out. We use this special equipment to try and find and communicate with them," I laughed. I showed them how each of the devices I had worked, explaining electromagnetic fields and voice recorders as best I could. One of my favorite things to do in the past was watch those shows on TV where they'd go to haunted places and search for ghosts. I'm not sure how ghosts work exactly, or if they could even go between realms like I did, but I figured a night of embracing the spooky would be good fun for all of us. Steven was probably more excited than anyone else. He took pride in never being scared during my stories, though he's not nearly as brave as he thinks he is. Lisa made a joke about being locked in a dark cell with me alone that thankfully went over both Kyle and Steven's heads, and Kyle was just happy to be there as always. I can't lie, the prison was a little creepy during the day, but at night it was downright terrifying. Even though I knew there was nothing there, other than potential ghosts of course, I still felt my skin crawling as we meandered through the dark halls with flashlights and our equipment. I tried to take plenty of pictures and even got some video as we explored. Things had been really quiet for the most part. Then Steven said he heard a noise in one of the cell blocks and we made our way inside. At first, nothing happened. I thought it would be just another false alarm, but the EMF detector Steven was holding started to go wild. It lit up like a Christmas tree, causing him to drop it and start running for the door. An alarm went off and my camera started snapping pictures on its own. The rest of us followed Steven back through the door, not stopping until we were on the boat and moving back out into the bay. When we were far enough away from the island to feel safe again, I looked through the pictures on the camera, focusing especially on the last few. I wasn't expecting to see anything really, so I nearly lost it when the black figure showed up in the last image. It wasn't a shadow, but I'm not really sure what else it could be. I don't think any of us really slept that night, though we didn't really try too hard. The boat had a small area to hang out and watch movies, so that was what we did until it was light enough to navigate safely back to the shore. The RV was a welcome sight, and it felt like we were coming home after a long weekend away. I didn't really feel like driving too much, but I did want to put San Francisco in the rear view and knock out at least a few miles, so we traversed the Golden Gate Bridge and rejoined Highway 1 before stopping for the day in Muir Beach. We had a cookout today and took in the beautiful sights as we tried to forget last night. I thought about deleting the image, but decided to keep it for now as it marks one of the wilder moments of our journey. As much as I've enjoyed this so far, I know it can't last forever, and I want to have something to look forward to someday to remind myself of these wild times. Maybe I'll print them out and make a scrapbook or something.